All right, let's talk more about the strike and the response from our allies with my next panel. Joining me now, former Marine Gunnery Sergeant Jessie Jane Duff. Jessie is now a senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research. Also with me is Matt Brodsky, a senior fellow at the Gold Institute for International Strategy. Jessie Jane, I'll start with you. Safe to say Soleimani had been under U.S. surveillance for a while. I mean, these kinds of strikes don't happen on a whim, right?
No, not at all. But, you know, President Trump was very strategic. He knew he had an opportunity to strike, and he took it. Soleimani thought that he would never, ever be taken out by the United States. In fact, their Ayatollahs used to taunt the president and suggest that he didn't have the nerve to do it. But this man was in Baghdad at the airport where we are present. He wasn't in Iran. He was in basically a region that we were there to defend and protect and support. And we've been there for how long? So Soleimani used to take photo ops and put them out on social media. He essentially thought he was untouchable. But let's not just make this about him being cocky. The fact is that his whole goal was to kill United States military personnel, and he was very good at it. He had killed well over 600 personnel in just the last couple of years and maimed. I'm talking about many of these men you don't see with limbs today are a result of the IEDs that Soleimani was behind. He had not only killed and maimed many Americans, but he had also funneled billions of dollars into terrorism.
So, Matt Brodsky, I'll bring you in. Jessie Jane talks about all that Soleimani did in terms of terrorism, but in Iran, he's revered, right? So how does that square?
He's not actually revered. He's revered, of course, by the regime because he's a very powerful symbol, as Jessie was just pointing out. But the fact is, people on the streets have been protesting there for a while. He's loathed by a large segment of Iran's population. There's been a protest movement inside of Iraq since October. What they are protesting is the corruption of their politicians, who are, frankly, in many cases, run by Iran. Of course, some of the slogans from the protesters in Iran over the course of the past year or so had been that that they should get out of places like Syria and stop worrying about Hamas and Gaza and take care of their own affairs at home. So there's actually quite a divide on Soleimani. The fact remains, however, is that getting him was something that was on par with getting bin Laden. Bin Laden took 10 years or so to finally bring him to justice. Now, that was a dish that was served cold. Getting Soleimani was a dish served piping hot. He has been active around the region, consistently planning. There was an imminent strike, and this was the absolute right decision to make.
So, Jessie Jane, I mean, if this crisis devolves into war, would the U.S. really be blamed for stoking this incident, or was killing Soleimani overdue?
Well, the U.S. is always going to be blamed for anything that goes on that the rest of the world decides is aggravating their oil prices or aggravating their relationship with Iran to get those discounts, or Germany that's selling them parts. I mean, essentially, what we're looking at is a world that has been very weak with Iran. Over 40 years, we have been at odds with Iran. Essentially, we've been at essentially a Cold War with them. They killed over 220 Marines and additional 20 other U.S. personnel who were peacekeeping forces in 1983 in the bombing in Lebanon. Let's not forget, Marine Barracks Lebanon in 1983 was killed by Iranian-backed Hezbollah. That I never forgot going back onto Camp Lejeune, looking at those empty barracks where those men never came home. And we're sitting here today trying to debate whether the United States is justified or not in the thousands of men and women that have been killed by the Iranian regime. I think at some point, if there is quote-unquote a war, the Iranians don't even have the capacity that we have to defend themselves or deal with us. They just been a lot of talk, and everybody has been brought to their knees trying to appease them because we haven't want to have any hostility. But you know what? We've had a lot of hostility.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the next step will bring. Everybody's waiting to see how Iran reacts to this. Jessie Jane Duff, Matt Brodsky, thank you for your time.